Alright guys, what is good? We are back again with another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel video. The Festival Legend Anthology is currently going on from the 16th of February to the 25th. As you can see, we pretty much already made a decent chunk of progress through this event. So as per usual, gonna just do a quick run through of the deck that we're using. As per most times, playing in any festivals or any events in Master Duel, we're pretty much usually gonna just be playing burn deck. So this time around, they actually allowed us to use a couple of cards that they didn't allow us to use in the last festival, namely Self-Destruct Ant. This is a really nice card because you put it face down and when it flips up, they take 1,000. Both players take 1,000, but then also when it dies and goes to the graveyard, it inflicts 1,000 damage as well on your opponent. So this time around, I think the main theme behind the event was that, you know, it's more of an old school kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Type of vibe. So you couldn't really use hand traps and some other staple cards that are used in nowadays Yu-Gi-Oh! So the deck is as consists following Aroma Jar. We have 3 copies of that. That synergizes well with Messenger of Peace because every turn you have to pay 100 life points, and every turn, every standby phase, Aroma Jar gives you 500. So you help keep your head above water. As per usual, MVP card, Marshmallow. Similar to Aroma Jar, both of these cards don't die to battle. So once it's on the field, it's pretty much staying there unless they can remove it with a spell or a trap card or banish it with an effect or something of that nature. But battle, they can't battle through this. Downside, you can take piercing damage from certain monsters. We already talked about 3 copies of Self-Destruct Ant here. Really nice card. Really good direct damage card. We have good old Lava Golem for, you know, taking advantage of your opponent's board. Very nice thing is if you have 2 of them in hand and your opponent has a full field, you can actually get out more than 1 in 1 turn, so that's nice. We were also trying out Michi on the Time Lord a bit. I'm not 100% sold on this card just due to the fact that it doesn't completely really synergize with the deck, because if Marshmallow or Aroma Jar is on the field, this can't really get special summoned or technically normal summoned without any tributing onto the field. So it's kind of a tricky card to find situational use for, but we're messing around with it. Another MVP staple of our direct damage decks, we got Chain Energy here. Each player must pay 500 life points every time to normal summon, special summon, set or activate cards from their hand. We already talked about Messenger of Peace. Monsters with 1500 or more attack cannot declare an attack, so that helps to stall out the game as well as protect the life points. We have Burning Land, another staple card that we usually run. Every turn you basically do 500 damage to your opponent as well as to yourself when it's your turn. So that's consistent 500 damage every turn if the duel goes for long. We have Contract with 1,000, literally just mostly playing this card primarily for draw power, because you get to draw a card off of it and it also does direct damage to your opponent. A lot of draw cards were banned in this festival, so yeah, we tripled up on this. We don't usually triple up on it, but we tripled up on it this time. Ring of Destruction, good direct removal card, also inflicts damage to both you and your opponent. So that's more life points damage there. Magic Cylinder, good old Magic Cylinder, redirects the damage that you would have taken from an attack back to your opponent. You'd be surprised how many people attack into this. It's hilarious every time. Another pseudo Magic Cylinders card, Dimension Wall. You activate this whenever you're about to take some battle damage. And it basically redirects the battle damage you would have taken to your opponent. The nice thing about this card is, unlike Magic Cylinder, this Dimension Wall doesn't actually target a monster. So monsters who aren't affected by trap cards, Magic Cylinder wouldn't work against them, but Dimension Wall will. So that's why we're running 2 copies of each. Well, 3 copies of Dimension Wall and 2 of Magic Cylinder, because we actually lost a match against a Blue Eyes deck, which is very prevalent in this event. They were running, I believe, Tyrant Dragon, or there was a Fusion Dragon that basically isn't affected by trap cards, and I had magic cylinders down and I couldn't activate it, so that was kind of a bummer. Also running 2 copies of Blazing Mirror Force. This basically destroys any attack position monsters your monster that your opponent may have, and then splits the original attack of the combined attack of the monsters and inflicts that to both you and the opponent. Another staple card of our direct damage deck that we normally use, Skull Invitation. Every time a card is sent to the graveyard, that's a free 300 damage. So events that usually have like a lot of link summoning or stuff like that, this, you'd be surprised how quickly this shit adds up. So yeah, we're running 3 copies of that. Also, similar reason, we're running Fatal Abacus. Every time a monster is sent from the field to the graveyard, inflict 500 points of damage. So this one is every card, so spell, trap, monster, anything that touches your graveyard is 300. Fatal Abacus is any monster sent from the field to the graveyard, it's 500 damage. And then finally we have Coffin Seller, which every time a monster is sent to your graveyard, so if sent from the hand or sent from the field, it's gonna be 300 damage. So that's basically the deck. We don't really have an extra deck because we ain't link summoning or XZ summoning or fusion summoning anything. So that's the deck in its entirety. We're gonna just showcase about, I guess, 5 matches or so of the deck in action, and then we'll call it quits there. Okay, so first duel. So yeah, don't pay attention to the Shard of Greed in the deck, because this was when we were trying to find cards that could give us draw power to use. But yeah, we have a decent opening hand, Ring of Destruction, Magic Cylinder, Dimension Wall. So already Burning Land gets us 500 direct damage. I believe this person was playing a Galaxy Photon deck or something of the sort. Yeah. So Ring of Destruction, this guy, to hopefully interrupt his play with the 2000 damage Ring of Destruction. At this point, since I think he used the normal summon, I was like, let me kill that. But then he still has more plays that he can make, so he's still there popping off, doing his thing, summoning and discarding and all sorts of whatever. So at this point I'm kinda like, shit, maybe I used Ring of Destruction a bit too early, because he's doing all this extra shit. And I'm kind of just at a loss as to what's happening. I'm just seeing flashing stuff happening. I was like, oh, right here. I'm like, you go through all of that, right? You get out this huge ass 4000 attack monster, right? And then you attack into my lovely Magic Cylinder sitting right there for your enjoyment. So he takes 4k damage, and now he's at 1.5. So now I'm like, okay, what do we do here? Oh yeah, this Gravity Bind, we're also trying this out, but a big flaw of Gravity Bind is that it doesn't stop stuff like this. Xyz monsters don't count as monsters that fall under a level 4 or higher restriction, and Link monsters, it also doesn't work against them. So we had actually dropped the Gravity Bind and replaced it with Messenger of Peace. So we take 500 from Burning Land and we just enter turn code. We didn't top deck a monster. So at this point I'm kind of starting to get scared, because this has 4k attack and we only have 5,500. Looks like this guy gets a little bit wise and he opts to go into a different monster that can detach and destroy my back row. I also want to mention this for the video, this deck loses heavily as per usual to back row removal. So any Dark Magician decks, if anybody top decks a Harpy's Feather Duster, like, you just move on to the next match. It's a lost cause. So our opponents here doing all this Galaxy Photon stuff. I don't know why he chose to pop the Burning Land instead of popping one of these unknown face down cards. So he gets another minion, pops that card as well. So now I'm like really scared, because he popped what was supposed to be the Dimension Wall that saves our ass. I don't know why he didn't attack here. Maybe he thought there was another Magic Cylinder, which I was happy that he didn't attack. So we got to activate that to bait out. Let me just slow this down here. We got to activate our Shard of Greed to bait out the number 38 Hope Harbinger, because I actually knew of this card because I usually play it in Dark Lords. And yeah, whenever a spell card is activated, it can negate it and attach it to itself. So I popped off the Shard of Greed, hoping that he would fall for the bait and activate its effect to negate the Shard of Greed, so that I could freely play the Contracted Danthausen to do 1000 life points damage, which is exactly what he's at. So he loses, we win, and he does not get the GG. And that's that. So that worked out pretty well in our favor. There was a skill diff there that worked out worked out in our favor. Alright, so this opening hand, also I should probably mention with this deck, you typically always want to go first to set up. Because if you can get out Chain Energy early on, before the opponent starts making plays, then yeah, it works out in your favor. So we opened with Marshmallow, Skull Invitation, and Chain Energy. And we have the Lava Golem and Messenger of Peace in case our board gets wiped. So he starts taking 500 damage for each card. We flip up the Skull Invitation so that anything he sends to the graveyard does 300. So we get a free 300 for all those monsters he threw to the graveyard for the fusion summon. Here we go, Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon. So that's 600 for those two monsters and an extra 300 for the polymerization. Attacks into that, takes 1000 damage from Marshmallow. Sadly, he doesn't summon another monster, so we couldn't use Lava Golem on our turn, but we top deck Fatal Abacus and we end our turn. He just ends his turn, he doesn't bother attacking, so we didn't really have a need to flip up Fatal Abacus. We top deck Coffin Seller, so we put down Coffin Seller. So at this point now, we're kind of just waiting for him to do anything that, you know, send stuff to the graveyard or... yeah, so once we see him summon something, we know he's probably gonna sacrifice it off or something, so we flip these two up. So now 2 cards went from the field to the graveyard, so that's 300 from Coffin Seller for each monster, 300 for each card for Skull Invitation, and then another 1000 for Fatal Abacus. So the life points just start like clacking off real fucking fast. And yeah, he legit just ends up surrendering because he realizes that this is an uphill battle and he's paying those taxes. So yeah. Okay, so we got the fancy Egyptian god board with all the Millennium pieces. Alright, so solid opening hand. We get Marshmallow, so we should be protected. We get a Chain Energy, so that's 500 damage every time they play something. We get Fatal Abacus, so that's another 500 if they start trying to do combos and pop off and whatnot. And we have a Ring of Destruction, so we can get rid of any major threats that they put down. So solid opening hand. Alright, so they throw out the Foolish Barrel, so we activate the Fatal Abacus. That's 500 from Chain Energy. They send that monster to the graveyard. More monsters get sent to graveyard. Here was really, I was really wishing the Fatal Abacus was a Coffin Seller or a Skull Invitation, because then we would maybe get some additional damage. But Fatal Abacus is only for monsters that leave from the field to the graveyard, so we didn't get any free damage that way. But we still get some free damage off Chain Energy as he puts stuff out of his hand down. He attacks into Marshmallow, takes 1000 damage. So he's already at like almost half life just from doing his turn. That's one of the cool things I like about this deck. So here I was saying I couldn't target the Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon with the Ring of Destruction because it's unaffected by trap cards or effects. So I ended up killing off the other one. Still 3000 damage, so still a decent chunk of damage. Monster goes to the graveyard from the field. So he lost another 500 from Fatal Abacus, but he gets it back. Thankfully, we have Marshmallow defending our board. We throw down the Aroma Jar just in case he has an out for the Marshmallow. Now we throw down the Messenger of Peace so that we can't get attacked. He just skips his turn because he realizes he can't really do anything. So at this point now we top deck Dimensional, so I'm like, okay, let me just throw that down, flip up Aroma Jar so we can start getting free life points from that. So I was figuring if he somehow manages to get rid of the Messenger of Peace, we at least have the dimension wall to protect us. So I was like, okay, let me throw down this second aroma jar and just keep stockpiling these life points, going up little by little. So at this point, we're pretty much just playing the waiting game. If he removes any monsters from the field to the graveyard, he's going to take 500 damage, and he's only on 1000. So we top deck a Burning Land, throw out the Burning Land. But he has the Solemn Judgment negate for it. At this point, I'm like, why would you Solemn Judgment that? Because, I mean, it's basically doing the same free 500 damage to you anyways. So now he's on 500 HP. So even if he top decks a Harpy's Feather Duster, he has no out. He can't play any cards because of Chain Energy. Anything that he doesn't already have on the board, he can no longer play anything from his hand. So we're just here stockpiling life points at this point, and I'm just like, well, I guess that's GG for him, because we top deck Contract with Don 1000, that's a free 1000 damage, bada bing bada boom, we win. It's such a beautiful thing when a plan executes just like you expect it to. Alright, so we got another match for you guys here. We open up with Marshmallow as per usual. Burning Land. I thought about throwing down the Dimension Wall, but I ended up not doing it because I figured the Marshmallow would protect us. I quickly learned that that was probably not the best play. I should always throw down a backup plan just in case. Because there are means and ways to out Marshmallow. So at least if I had the Dimension Wall down, it's a potential out. So in this situation, if I had placed the Dimension Wall down and he attacks with the Blue Eyes Max Chaos Dragon, because it does piercing damage, I could have still activated Dimension Wall because I take the damage. Normally Dimension Wall only activates if you're going to take damage, which normally if they're attacking Marshmallow I wouldn't take damage. So that was my misplay here, and it almost cost me the game. Because if they had outed the Marshmallow and I had another monster to attack with, I just would have been screwed. Thankfully they did not. So my turn, I end up taking 500 from Burning Land. We top deck the self-destruct, and so I throw down a Aroma Jar in hopes of protecting her HP, and I figure no, I should definitely throw down the Dimension Wall. He foolishly gets rid of the Burning Land using his Hope Harbinger, which that was a really big mistake because he could have just literally ended his turn and he would have won. Instead he goes for the attack with the Blue Eyes like a dumbass, and he ends up taking the damage, the piercing damage from the Blue Eyes Max Chaos Dragon. I don't know why people don't understand these very simple things. He just gave me the game at that point. But thanks to him, we're one step closer to finishing the event. So, yeah. Okay, so we got another match here. I can't pronounce this dude's name because it's in characters. We end up going second for this game. So we opened with Aroma Jar, Self-Destruct, and a decent amount of trap cards. So, done contract to open up things. This was a weird deck that I'm not used to. It has like kings, jacks, queens, and whatnot. But we get a pretty solid opening all in all. We have Aroma Jar to protect our life points. We have Magic Cylinder to negate an attack. We have Fatal Abacus in case they start doing any crazy plays to take some damage. We also have Coffin Seller and Skull Invitation. So as you are going to see, the life point diff adds up real friggin' fast if you don't pay attention to what you're doing and you just start trying to pop off and get your combos going. So we have literally 500 plus 600, 1100. No, yeah, it's like 1100 damage give or take every time a monster or a card goes to the graveyard. So you can see where his life starts out from, and then he starts popping off, doing combos and summoning stuff. Only way this could have been any better is if we had Chain Energy on field. But he literally kills himself from like almost full HP down to nothing. All of these go to the graveyard. 3 cards for a fusion summon. Boom. Takes a shit ton of damage. The damage is just piling up. And then he sacrifices 3 more for a Link summon. So there's even more damage coming his way. Skull Invitation. Fatal Abacus. Coffin Seller. It just piles on. Uncle Tax always collects his tax. Uncle Sam, I should say. But yeah, GG's to that guy. That's another free win for us using this deck. So yay us. So yeah, that's basically the deck that we use this time around. We're more than likely going to be using something similar for the XD's event that's coming up. I'm not sure what the ban restrictions are on that as yet, but the deck will more or less look at, like, I literally play this deck like almost every event since this game has come out. Main reason being, I just like burn decks, and it's a pretty cheap deck. There's no URs in this deck. Like, you can legitimately craft this no matter the lack of UR chips or SR chips or whatever. Like, it's mostly normal and rare cards. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's like 12 SRs in there. And yeah, it's really a cheap deck. So with that being said, here's the deck list one last time before we end the video. Feel free to pause the screen or whatever as I click through the cards in case you don't know, because I really can't be arsed to type out a deck list, because you can just pause the video as I'm going through the cards or whatever. So there you go. This is your friendly neighborhood gamer, GimmeDaWin, signing off for now, telling you as always, until next time, keep on gaming. Laters.